Hey, what's up, guys? What is this? Classic military vehicles. This yet another UK magazine. Now, I don't get this often, but like I said, one of the things that I always go for is photography. Right? I've seen a lot of World War II and World War I photos, but it's amazing how many I haven't seen. Okay, obviously the photography had been going on since the Civil War, really. But that's one of the things that when there's enough things that interest me, I said, you know what? Let me. I've never gone over this one really. I don't like I said, I don't get it much, but I want to go over it. It was interesting enough photos, and interesting enough variety. Okay. With the caveat that, like most things, most of the British magazines, most of the American magazines, everything, it's always the boomer truth narrative. The academic agent had coined that. I mean, the stuff I see with the Civil War magazines, I really, really don't like. But that's another story. We'll stick with the global wars here. Um, but it's like most things, interests in this, and it's very, and I'll say, it's about classic military vehicles that are still exist today. There's a whole, you could say, boomer hobby. Obviously, rich bourgeois boomers who have the money to buy still operating vehicles. Of course, and you have the mecca. Oh, can I say that about England? About the UK, the mecca of armored vehicles is the Bovington, right, in Bovington Museum, which is why we linked to this. Another thing I noticed too, real quick, right, is like this magazine, the other British magazines. I mean, the American magazines. I don't know. There's not that many good ones, right? Um, the British magazines, the model magazines, right? The toy soldiers less, but there's always this link to where they talk about the current conflict where armor is involved. It's just amazing looking how much, and you can argue with this too with some of the guys I do like on YouTube, like the Austrian guy MVH. Uh, MHVH, military history visualized. They're very tied up into the NATO, right? So you can see that there's this uh, the shadow of that war that's going on right now is enters into that as well. What does that mean to you? Nothing. I'm here to look at this magazine, make my own cheeky comments, as they say. We'll go through it. A little bit. It's very interesting. Uh, Not interested in the motorcycles as much, although, if I had a motorcycle, it would be one of these old army ones. Okay? Oh, look at what I reduced to. Sherman tank slippers. Yeah. Oh, the Tiger Beer. Look at this. Tiger Beer. Right? Man, what a lager. Yeah, last thing you're gonna see, Limey. Oh. I'm just joking. I look at the. Yeah, this is the thing too. It's a boomer hobby, so you're gonna have a bunch of this. What's his name? Dave Fletcher passed away. Guy was amazing. The eccentric guy with the mustache who would go over a lot of stuff in Bovington. So rest in peace. This is interesting. The one of the guys who designed some of the original tanks, the Little Willie. You remember Little Willie? No, you don't. The rhomboid successor, mother, right? The rhomboid shape, which was actually could cross trenches, which was the whole point of the original land ships. Right? I like how he calls it. They call it land ships, right? That's like the H.G. Wells story, right? The what is it? Oh man, what was the name of that story? It's a great story. I want to go over at some point later in the year. The Land Ironclads by H.G. Wells, which just sort of describes military armored vehicles having an effect in a war. But it's interesting that this guy who designed this, he got the medals, right? Distinguished Order of Saint Michael and Saint George. I'm not gonna. I don't want to make a joke about George and Michael, but my grandfather's medals had been missing. This is obviously a descendant. My grandfather's medals had been missing since being stolen in 1954. What? Oh, that's great. That's great. So now everyone forgets. I mean, Britain post-war. I mean, uh, they had the British Empire had won. I mean, Britain was is a lot of hardship. There's a reason why they couldn't wait to get rid of Mr. Churchill. And you can see though. You see the links here. You see the links between right, gaming, Osprey, right. Limited edition D-Day prints. All right, that's D-Day had gone by, so they're gonna be a bit of that nonsense. You know, I mean, I'll say the Soviets when they have the Great Patriotic War celebrations, you could argue that that's something that was an accomplishment. I could totally understand them being proud of that, and I'm on the other side of that, but just saying, it's a Commonwealth chaos. Yeah, you tell me. So the video games, of course, I have to give credit though. These video games have kept, in one way, have kept this going. In other ways, it has made everybody an expert. It's like, oh, you're a YouTube, you and LaFond are YouTube experts. Ha! Alright, so the books, of course, they're always going to cover right Osprey, German tanks in France. Right, the idea it was contrary to popular belief, it was not the technical ability of the tanks that made the German victory possible. Right, many of the German tanks were no match in a one-on-one fight with the French heavier tanks. Not most of the tanks they had. They had some problems at some point. Now, of course, they ran into the British Matilda twos. They had a problem, and the ones they had a problem with dealing with the armor, but it didn't last long. Also, the strategy they didn't go straight ahead. They didn't fight set piece. They didn't fight mobile. I mean, they didn't fight immobile. They did the opposite. So anyway, this sad day. Oh, you're biased. Yes, I am biased, but I don't. Let's get on. Oh, this is a cool ass thing. I want one of these. The Kettenkrad. It's like let's make a half track of a motorcycle. So actually, these things were well. You think this is weird? Everyone who used this liked it. So the great debate. So history is an argument about how to interpret the past. Well, that is true. Historicism, history is a living thing. Okay, you can argue that the Constitution is a living document. Well, living documents are just secondary to to power. Right, the idea of history being alive, history long past still being in play, is a way of using power and enforcing your will on others. That's always the case. That's what historicism, at least that aspect of it, the materialist aspect of it is. I'm an expert now, right? I'm just telling you, this interesting debate here, right? He's saying that when the Italians bogged down in Greece, right, that was the turning point. Of course, other people bring up Stalingrad. People bring up, North Africa, how it ended. Others bring up Kursk. Others bring up Operation Bagration, which I would argue is probably more the case. But anyway, this was cool, man. Look at this, the one-man tank. Now you had going over like what I went with the Luftwaffe stuff. You see the look at this. This is ridiculous. This is cool. Okay, but once again, this was a design that was designed here by Harl Arnold. Look at the Porsche turret, right? Those look like a space, like a science fiction thing. Anyway, the Kleinpanzer, like the small tank, right? The lack of resources. Once again, we're talking about. I mean, they're building rocket interceptors literally out of wood in people's backyards. I hate to say that. That's how desperate they were. So the idea of a one-man tank, easy to produce, maintain, and deploy, that could do everything, like Thunderbirds. It wasn't something that was it didn't make sense to this. Right? My nerdiness aside, it could include a Panzer. Listen, once you have a little tank, what's the armor? You give me a couple Panzerfaust, I'll knock out your Joseph Stalin tanks, bro. It could be armor, all kinds. I like the different weapons they have. You could be a Flammenwerfer, right? A gun that can squirt a jet of wet flammable liquid that can be later ignited, right? This is Kaltstrahlwerfer mit Entzünder. 3-inch, and they had a 3-inch mortar that shoots phosphorus bombs. Yeah, dude. I like this stuff, Phosphorwerfer, right? And a grease thrower attack to attack the enemy's tank optics. Optic Verklexer. These are weapons that will probably be more effective now and against a different enemy. But no, there's no I'm anti-war, so I can only conjecture this. I like the drawings of the different weapons systems. Yeah. I thought it was kind of cool. These are I guess this is the actual thing. Of course, the British had saw this and didn't think much of it because they were such experts at making tanks. Well, eventually they were, right? But you had to destroy it because you didn't want the occupying authorities would have trouble. I just thought it was cool. The idea that you could take it apart, it could be broken into two parts for transport, assembled in 25 minutes. Almost like it's like a tent or something. I think that's a kind of cool. I wonder if anyone would do something like this now who wasn't insane. Probably not, but and they got more of the weapons, right? The flamethrower again, right? The phosphor bombs. Oh, and this is the one. This is the little. Yeah, you can't see, bro. Oh, come out so I could shoot you with a machine gun. There you go. I like the. What could have been the Faustian spirit. So now I'm not gonna go over this. I want to make this one video. Just the longest day, the greatest generation. So although I like the M3 and the M5. I like the Stuart tanks, man. And they're small enough where you may be able to buy this if you take out a mortgage if you're a regular person. The inside of it, interesting, right? Of course, I always like this one. I always like the Churchills. I like the Churchills. Anyway, we get away from the longest day. Yeah, you're killing prisoners on day one, and then you wonder why you had some issues with the 12th SS. Anyway, now this is the idea of the Dieppe raid, where the original DD tanks. Another tank I like a lot. I like British tanks. I like Soviet tanks. I like British tanks. Okay, I like the German tanks, but I like a lot of the crazy British tanks. This was the one that everybody liked. The Russians couldn't get enough of these. The Soviets couldn't get enough of these. Of course, Dieppe, the idea that this only the British can make a massive failure, right? We learned the lessons for D-Day. Okay. And of course, who bore the brunt of it as usual, right? The Canadians. Hey, mate. Hey, yeah, we'll go over there. Eh? Unmitigated disaster. Yeah, you telling me. So Stalin had repeatedly demanded the Allies open a second front in Europe. It's funny how everybody forgets that. Okay, what's the Soviets could have beat the Germans by themselves. Yeah, that's why Stalin's desperately asking for another front. So come on. And you see how it was pretty bad. Also, they mentioned what I had mentioned in the other ones. The RAF, the biggest air battle of the war, and the RAF got their asses kicked in a real lopsided fight by the Luftwaffe. So, it was a propaganda coup. Well, you tried to attack us, and we kicked your asses, and we made your poor Commonwealth dudes pay the price for that. So, and there's Lord Mountbatten. Would you trust a guy named Mountbatten? So the cost in lives is worth the lessons. Yeah, anyway, and they show some of the other tests they have here. Obviously the British did use their DD tanks better, right? Most of them got to the shore to get knocked out. The Americans, though, didn't, and they released them out too far, and all those guys drowned. Okay, even when they were trained, too. They mentioned, this is going to be 2 vids, I can tell. All right, I'll do an addendum vid, shorter vid. They had trained these guys with the Valentine versions of this. But when there was a real thing and they started sinking, 6 of the guys died despite the training. So, poor bastards. Yeah, all right. Oh, that's cool. Look at that. A very light motorcycle. That's cool. That makes sense for paratroopers, right? All right, let's do one more vid.